Hello, welcome to Smash Hit Sports. I'm Cody, that's Nick, and we had arguably one of the greatest college football games my eyes have ever seen. Before we get into it, make sure to like the video. It's a huge help to the podcast. If you are listening to the audio version, hit that subscribe button so that way you don't miss anything. But Nick, I feel like it would be criminal not to start with Bama, Georgia. Now, I do want to, that was after the Clemson Stanford game, correct?
Well, it was on at the same time, but the only important part of the Georgia Bama game was I was able to watch that. Like pretty much, I
Okay.
started watching when it was 33-15.
Okay. Okay. So
And
you were still pretty well dialed in. Because honestly, the first portion of the game, Alabama's rolling. They look damn near flawless offensively. Georgia, they had 2 interceptions, they had a fumble, they had safety in the first half. Like they just looked like shit. And the fact that they even came back and took a lead is pretty insane.
insane.
What were your thoughts on just the end of that game? Because holy shit, it was awesome.
This is my thing. It's very rare to have twice in one game to have a feeling of sort of like you feel like a kid again, you know, like those type of moments. Like even the Shadur Sanders Hail Mary from last week, I don't even think it gave me that feeling. That was more of just like a holy shit, that's the craziest thing ever. But that feeling of like, I don't know how else to word it besides that. But I was already bowing down to the TV after Georgia took the lead. It was just this combination of like nostalgia and how much this game meant and where I was, and it's 2 versus 4 and it's nighttime. And it's just like, this is incredible. And then the next play is the greatest play I've ever seen in my life. It's like Ryan Williams enters. He made them run into each other, those 2 corners. I'm at a bar. The place erupts because Clemson fans, I think, hate Georgia now more than they hate Bama, which is interesting because we were raised on hating Bama. But everyone was really excited. And the only thing that I will say is that I've had it before, like the Tennessee Georgia 2016, Jacob Eason, or whatever, touchdown.
Yeah,
Riley
the long
Ridley,
touchdown.
Riley Ridley. There's 7 seconds left. That's to win the game. And then the next play is Joshua Dobbs, Jawan Jennings touchdown. I've had those times where it's like two plays in one game where I'm genuinely like maybe about to cry out of the beauty of it. So I wouldn't say it's the best game I've ever watched. I would not. I would say that's maybe top 10. Maybe. But it's very rare to have moments like that. So unbelievable. Seriously unbelievable.
Yeah. Truly, the game, it wasn't a incredible game start to finish, but the finish was absolutely incredible. Truly games like that don't happen in the NFL. And the environment, the crowd, when Georgia scored that second to last touchdown, you could feel it was like a vacuum just sucked all of the life out of Bryant-Denny Stadium. Legitimately chills. And then as soon as that ball is in the air headed to Ryan Williams, it's scenes. So that was it. I would agree with you. Not my favorite football game of all time, but it was certainly up there. Truly, just a special football game. That being said, it means a lot in terms of the college football playoff picture, but I don't think it means a ton in saying that there is potential that we could see this matchup again, both in the SEC championship or in a college football playoff game. The other side of this is Alabama wins. I think their schedule is a little bit easier than Georgia's. Georgia's schedule is brutal. They have to play at Ole Miss, they have to play at Texas, and they play Tennessee. They have a tough road. You had talked about this going into the year that you didn't think Georgia was going to come out unscathed, and I disagreed. I was wrong. You were correct there. I think what concerned me more than anything about this Georgia team is they had a week off. They had a week to prepare. and they came out the most flat I've ever seen a Georgia team come out under Kirby Smart. Like they came out so bad. So I don't know what need to change, if it was a halftime adjustment or what, but they came out terribly.
I'll say
And
one thing is I think that we in college football see so many blowouts, throughout our like entire lives. There are way more blowouts in college football than there are the NFL, and
oh yeah.
because of that, I think once Alabama's up 28-0, we're sort of assuming like this is now officially a blowout. Like there is
Mhm.
just no comprehending the idea of 28-0 that quick. But like in reality, when you're up 28-0 against a team like Georgia, I don't think it matters. And I don't think it really ever has mattered. We just don't see it a lot. Like you think of any top 5 team that's been down to another top 5 team big, odds are they came back and maybe even won. I remember Ohio State was up like 19-0 against Clemson. Clemson won that game. Like it happens all the time. So, like, I don't think Georgia has much to worry about. I think that they got punched in the mouth, but a punch in the mouth from Alabama that's a 28-0 lead. You saw it actually in the NFL with the Vikings versus the Packers. That was 28-0, and then it was a 2-point game at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those are two great teams, right? Like Georgia is fine. I think I'm not worried in the slightest about them. They lost a close game, and people are going to say like, well, they were getting crushed early. Does not matter in the slightest, in my opinion.
Yeah. I was a little bit concerned, or not concerned, but I was hoping that Georgia would come back and take it to overtime. Not that I had any stake in the game. Like I bet Georgia money line, but like at that point I did not give a shit. I was just hoping for the best possible outcome, which would have been Georgia taking the game to overtime. Would have been so absolutely electric. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
that didn't happen. But speaking of teams who got absolutely punched in the mouth, Ole Miss is they are soft as fuck. They are Charmin Ultra Soft, softer than baby shit. For them to go and play 4 teams that basically do not have a pulse. Wake Forest lost this week. Who did Wake Forest lose to this weekend?
Louisiana, I think.
Yes. So, like, again, awful team that they just boat raced. Ole Miss had not played anybody, and they had the opportunity at home to open their season SEC play against Kentucky, who it's not like Kentucky should have shocked them. They just played Georgia really well. And then now we're going to sit here and be like, oh shit, this Kentucky team out of no. We knew exactly what Kentucky was. They're tough up front. They're tough on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Their linebackers are good, and they're going to run the ball on you. And yet Ole Miss came in so unready and so unserious. I was so ready to take Ole Miss as a playoff team, national title contender, like truly could compete at the top of the SEC. And I just don't believe it anymore. That was a embarrassment of a performance by Ole Miss.
Yeah. I again, I don't think much has changed in my opinion of Ole Miss. I just made a video last week about potential scenarios in college football this year and the impact of like if things don't go exactly how the SEC wants it to go, they're gonna get mad and banish the group of 5, blah blah blah. And in that scenario, I think a lot of SEC teams could end up going 10-2. I think that's still very, very likely. I don't think Texas, they played Mississippi State, didn't look good against Mississippi State. Mississippi State lost by more to, I believe, Toledo at home than they did to Texas. And the score was like 35-13. It was closer than that. So a lot of these teams, like Ole Miss losing to Kentucky by 3, it doesn't make me fearful of like if they finish 10-2, I still think they're going to get in, especially if they beat Georgia. Maybe I guess I'm a little worried that they haven't really done anything, to your point, to prove that they can beat those great teams in the SEC. But how different is the talent disparity in the SEC? I really think sometimes we're a little brainwashed by the rankings when it comes to what to expect. Like, I think Ole Miss might be better than Texas. Like I think that people are they get
That's bold.
they
I
get a little
I would
divisive in
disagree.
this. I think like you if you were like, oh, Quinn Ewers or Jackson Dart, I'd be like, I don't know, doesn't matter to me. Talk with the running backs, I'd probably rather the Ole Miss running back. I love Ole Miss's wide receivers. They have a great roster wise. I really don't think it's different at all. But I think we're just going to see things even out a little bit, and the SEC is just going to be chaotic. I don't think we're going to get anyone that's undefeated. So a loss is a loss. Figure it out. That's all.
That is totally fair. Keeping it moving, we recorded last week on Monday. And after we recorded was when all of the UNLV drama came out. So Matthew Sluka redshirting after being the starter for the first 3 or 4 games, I believe. He ends up redshirting because he wasn't supposedly paid $100,000 that UNLV had promised him when he came there. Crazy ass story. Crazy ass story.
Yeah.
So their starting quarterback and their backup running back redshirt as this team is undefeated and headed into conference play against a Fresno State team that, I'm going to be honest, I figured would be top 4 in that conference, like pretty high in the Mountain West. UNLV rolled them. That offense looked as good or better than it ever did with Matthew Sluka at the helm, with Haj Malik Williams. He was a dog. Their receivers looked so much better. UNLV, in my mind, I understand that Ashton Genty is an elite player. UNLV team is the best team in the group of 5. They will be the representative in the group of 5 playoff.
Yeah, we'll see. That UNLV Boise State game's appointment TV. They might play twice too. They probably will. Now, it's interesting to me that I took UNLV. I was scared about it, but I talked about this on the podcast. I think last year, the interim effect, barring injury. If there's an injury, then it's different. Like the Dolphins with Tyler Huntley. But if you don't have an injury and you have an interim head coach, interim quarterback, just out of nowhere, it is always a win. It's always at minimum, wow, they played way better than the entire public thought. Everyone's talking, well, now UNLV, they lost their quarterback. They're probably gonna lose out. It's just gonna be a disaster. But they figured it out. And I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be fine the rest of the year.
Yep. I'm excited. I think the Mountain West, out of all of the G5 conferences, I think the Mountain West is probably the most exciting. I know the American has Tulane and Navy and does the American
Navy.
have Army as well?
Army is an independent, right?
Okay. So are they? I thought they joined. Did they join a conference?
They were.
Year?
They definitely were.
I know they're joining the MAC at some point, but anyway, yeah. Army officially joins the American Athletic Conference.
Oh wow! This year? They're in it this year?
Let me look up the standings. American Conference standings. At the top of the American Conference right now, there are 2 teams with 3 conference wins. Nobody else has more than 1, and it is Army at the top, Navy right next to them.
Yeah.
Both of them 4-0, undefeated at the top of their conference. Nick.
That's awesome, dude.
I just want to throw a hypothetical at you. I'm
all ears.
They both play Notre Dame. Okay? I'm just going to assume, I'm going to make an assumption that Notre Dame beats them both. As a Notre Dame fan, a little scary, but hey. So let's assume that Notre Dame beats them both. Is there a chance that we head into the Army-Navy game with Army and Navy being both potentially one-loss teams and fighting for a spot in the college football playoff? Also, now that they are in a conference, they could play in back-to-back weekends. They could play in the American Conference Championship game.
Oh.
And also the Army-Navy game.
Whoa. That I haven't considered. I've definitely been thinking
they could play back-to-back weekends.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that. That's nuts. I guess it makes sense. I didn't really realize Army was in the American. because to me, I'm thinking, let's say Navy beats Notre Dame, RV loses to Notre Dame. It doesn't like any scenario out there, I think, where that's the only team that kind of can give them trouble if they're as good as it looks like they are. Then I think, let's say Army one-loss team going into undefeated Navy, Army wins, and then you have the Army Navy game where both are one loss, and that would be, oh my gosh, that would be something.
Cinema.
That would be
on.
I can't put into words how cool that would be. I can't even put into words.
That would be arguably one of the most hyped football games of all time. Like I truly
would be more must watch than the Super Bowl. Like, if college football announced, hey, the winner of this Army Navy game, they're going to get the 12 seed, that would be more must watch than the Super Bowl. That would be unreal.
They just do the college football playoff standings, and that 12 team is just Army/Navy.
Winner
we'll
of
figure
Army
it out.
Yeah. Oh boy! Now and this is the thing. I'm starting to believe it's possible because Navy was, I believe, maybe even an underdog, maybe like a 2-point favorite against UAB. So Vegas saw them beat Memphis and still said, like, hey, this Navy team, we're not so sure they could drop this one. And they won with ease against UAB. They're cruising. And Army's kind of doing the same thing. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that is awesome.
Yeah, just something to think about. Keeping it moving. The Big 12. Wide ass open. So we had 2 top 10 upsets. Obviously, Ole Miss losing to Kentucky. But we also, real late. I think the game is 1:30 Eastern, I think, when it finally got over. Arizona upsets Utah. And, Nick, we have a segment coming up where you get to be the corner and you get to pronounce whether or not teams are dead. But Arizona, very much not dead. Very much
they're the
not
Undertaker.
Dead.
They came back from the dead. The freaking Grim Reaper.
The Big 12 is wild right now.
Yeah, can you imagine if Arizona just wins the Big 12, they get the 4 seed, and I'm looking back at my predictions from the beginning of the year saying, like, oh my God. And in your betting guide, I wrote down in my description, you never know in the Big 12. So why not pick Arizona? I had other reasons as well that, aren't great. Their defense is the reason they beat Utah. But the Big 12 is always crazy, man. It is without fail, will always be. You're not going to know until week 11 who is winning that conference. It's just how it goes. So I feel pretty good now. And I think Arizona is going to drop some games, but I don't even think it matters because I think everyone's going to be dropping games.
Would you have, given the option, you get to reset, clean slate, would you still pick Arizona to win the Big 12?
That's a fascinating question because who would you really want to switch it to? Kansas State? There's BYU is probably at the top of the standings right now, right? They're the only team without a loss.
Yep.
I don't think I would switch.
Iowa State also undefeated.
Okay. Oh yeah, I picked Houston to beat Iowa State. Now, to be fair, Cody, because everyone was clapping. To be fair, it was 3-0.
You should have been. They didn't score a fucking point.
It was 3-0 late in the third. I remember watching. I was like, Houston just needs any points, and I can be like, hey, look, they were winning late or they were tied late. It was a dumb choice, but I want to put that out there that everyone's saying they're going to get swamped on. No, it was a close game. It was officially a close game. But no, I think I would probably change it to Kansas State. Maybe Utah still as well. But I still feel good about Arizona. Better than I felt before. Yeah,
there are some other teams that are sneaky up here. Like Texas Tech has 2 Big 12 wins already. They're 4-1. Colorado has 2 Big 12 wins already. They're 4-1. Like the Big 12, very much alive. The only team that I actually, we'll talk about it in our Dead or Alive segment. So keeping it moving. Clemson, you were in Clemson this weekend. How was that environment, the game day atmosphere, the game itself? I mean, obviously Clemson rolled Stanford. That offense has looked as good it is. I will say it has unequivocally been the best that offense has looked since Trevor Lawrence left. Since
Oh,
Trevor Lawrence was drafted.
by far, I think you could argue that the offense looks better than, you know, part of the Trevor Lawrence era as well. You know, there are
Yeah.
definitely parts like 2018. There was moments of the Trevor Lawrence era where it was just 77 to nothing beatdowns. We're not. We're
Yeah.
good. I mean, we're almost doing that, but um, yeah. Cade Klubnik, I think he leads college football in total touchdowns as a quarterback. I don't know if it's passing or total, but he has 13 um, touchdowns accounted for. Ashton Genty also has 13. You know, no
Wild.
one's really talking Cade Klubnik right now as far as like what he's doing statistically as far as like the Heisman goes. He can't be too far off. I mean, he has better stats than Trevor did in any of his starts, like his first 4 games, and that's with a Georgia loss where Cade didn't do anything. So it is
Yeah.
crazy. The game day atmosphere. There was a massive hurricane that destroyed Western South Carolina and Western Carolina. So
Yeah.
power
Yeah.
was out everywhere. You know, like it was very interesting because the bars were still selling drinks even though they didn't have power. So like it was like cash only, and it was homecoming weekend, alumni weekend for my fraternity. My buddy like was doing a birthday thing in Airbnb, so there were so many people down there. It was very exciting. It felt like the same old Clemson that I went to for 4 years. Um, but just the power was out. Like I couldn't charge my phone. Um, you know, there was nowhere to get food or anything. Um, and you know, there like I had trouble on my way home. I ran out of gas because I didn't really consider the fact that none of the gas stations were able to pump
Mhm.
gas because they didn't have power. And I was just like, what am I supposed to? It was on it. That's a whole different story, but that was crazy. But the game itself was, yeah, it was great. You know, the stadium had power. Obviously, college football is going to
Mhm.
intervene, do whatever it takes to get that game played. They figured it out. Um, and I was worried for a little bit there. Stanford's offense is underrated, in my opinion. I think they run a really, really cool motion based, confusion based offense where you just don't know what's going to happen. And Clemson handled it well. 40 to 14 was 40 to 7 late. I'm happy.
Yep. Thoughts and prayers to everybody who's going through all of that shit in Western Tennessee or Eastern Tennessee, Western Carolinas. Um,
Yep.
brutal, brutal situation.
Horrific.
For what
Yeah.
it's worth, Cade Klubnik, 16 total touchdowns, which is good for 6th in the country. So,
Okay.
and he is behind the likes of Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, John Mateer, which we haven't talked about John Mateer, but he's fucking electric, dude. The quarterback for Washington State.
Oh yeah,
Dude
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
leading his team in passing and rushing. Just a absolutely electric player. Garrett Nussmeier. So in good company. That being said, before we get into winners, losers, and dogs of the week, Home Field Apparel has the best college apparel that you could possibly get your hands on. They just released these new like throwback series jackets, so they look like the old starter jackets that you used to have with the buttons up front. They look cool as hell. The Notre Dame one looks sick, but they have a lot of the old logos. I know the Clemson one has the old like tiger logo, like the actual
Yeah.
tiger. Super, super cool. But go to Home Field Apparel. The link is in the description of this video or in our bios. But use code Nick15 for 15% off your first purchase at Home Field. But Nick, who is your winner of the week?
Yeah, I would say I'm gonna shout out. I have a couple options written down, but I'm gonna shout out UConn. UConn.
What you could have given me 134 guesses, and UConn would have probably have been 134th.
Really.
That's
I
wild.
I think UConn is they were top 3 winner of the week for me. They beat Buffalo 47-3. They looked like a top 25 team, and they did last time I watched them play as well. And it's shocking to me because maybe I didn't look into UConn preseason, but I mean, I would have thought this team is just a UMass level pushover again. Buffalo beat a ranked Northern Illinois last week and loses to UConn by over 40 points. UConn almost beat Duke as well. Should have. Duke is undefeated, so that could be a winner of the week as well. Ever since that Maryland loss, I feel like something has been figured out, and it's more so like, don't look now. UConn back-to-back college basketball champions. I'm convinced that they are not eliminated from the 12-team playoff contention. I think that's a win, because how crazy would that be to go to the playoff in football and win back-to-back natties in basketball, and it's UConn? Like, that'd be crazy. So,
Nick, I love you. I think you may be drunk, but I love you.
What's crazy about that?
That's wild. UConn going to the college football playoff.
You clearly didn't watch
that is the crazy part.
You clearly didn't watch the game.
Yeah, I did not watch UConn Buffalo. I will be the first to admit, Nick, my ball-knowing self did not watch that football game because it did end up 42-3 or whatever you said it was. So that's on me.
It was enough. If you watched the film, if you watched any breakdown after this podcast, it was enough to change your mind. I would tell you that much. You would watch it. You'd text me. You'd be like, oh my God, you might be right.
I will watch a game recap of that game because you are so passionate about the UConn Huskies.
I mean, there's no way I'd be talking about this if they just like, it's UConn. I'm talking about this for a reason. This is crazy to me how good they look. It's crazy.
That's fair. That's fair. My winner, ironically enough, my winner of the week, also a college basketball blue blood. The Indiana Hoosiers.
There you go.
They beat Maryland 42-28. And there are a lot of things that were said about Curt Cignetti when he got hired into this position. And him in his, I don't think it was his opening press conference, but he did like an introduction at an IU basketball game. And he said, IU or Ohio State, you better get ready. Michigan, you better get ready. Like, Indiana's coming. A lot of people gave him shit for it, myself included. But his opening press conference, he said, I win. Google me. That line goes so goddamn hard because guess what? He wins. Google his ass. Indiana is 5-0 for the first time since 1967, Nick. The first time since 1967, the Indiana Hoosiers are 5-0. They are a top 25 team in the country. They go on the road against Northwestern this weekend. I legitimately think, I talked about it at the beginning of the year when we did our Big Ten preview, 9-win Indiana is absolutely possible. This is a team that is damn good at football. There are a handful of teams that have never at any point this season been behind in the football game. Indiana is one of those. They have never at any point been down in a game this season. They are 5-0. My winners of the week, the Indiana Hoosiers.
Yeah, and you look at their schedule. I mean, not that it's been too hard.
It's bad.
But it's not. It doesn't get. I mean, they're going to lose to Ohio State on the road. But the rest of these games, I think, are winnable. Like, 9-win Indiana is one thing. At this point, I think 11-win Indiana is in the cards. Like, I think the people in Indiana and Bloomington are starting to believe it as well. You know, you're starting to see some media presence that you really have never seen before from Indiana football. Because normally it's just whatever. They don't give a rat's ass about their football team. They care. They're 5-0, and it's a real fun.
There's a chance late in November, that November 23rd weekend, where they play Ohio State. There's a true shot, even if they're 2-loss at that point. There's a shot that Indiana Ohio State is College Game Day because that's the weekend that all of the SEC teams play their absolute fucking cupcakes. Like,
well, imagine if Indiana
there's a shot that is College Game Day.
Imagine if they're 10-0. I mean,
could be nuts.
It's not out of the question because they have Michigan at home. And they have Nebraska at home. So it's, crazy things can happen. They could drop a game to Northwestern this week. Like, anything can happen. That Michigan State game is daunting as well on the road. but they could be 10-0, man, and we could be looking at like 2-5 Ohio State, Indiana in November.
Yep.
Which, I mean, again,
would be unbelievable.
I would be
This is
bowing
the
down.
dumbest sport in the world.
Yeah.
All right. Losers of the week. I'm going to go first with my loser of the week. It is a coach. And this guy is an absolute fucking loser because anytime any adversity comes his way, he cannot take 1 ounce of accountability. It's absolutely unbelievable. He throws his players under the bus. He throws his staff under the bus. He throws the university that he's coaching for under the bus. It's unbelievable. And it's Hugh Freeze. This Auburn team is dog shit. Their roster is terrible. But he's going to sit here and say, well, my players can't play. And like, did you see what I inherited when I took over this program? Yeah, dude. So did everybody else. The transfer portal exists. Hey, your quarterback that you like to throw under the bus and that you say needs to execute better and play better, you brought him in the transfer portal, dude. That was your decision. You are the one who wanted him on your team. It's unbelievable to me that in a fan base that is as passionate as Auburn and a university that has had as much success as Auburn cannot figure out their head coaching position because Hugh Freeze is not it. They are 2-3 right now. They will be lucky to make a bowl game. I don't think they do. Hugh Freeze, loser of the week.
Well, yeah, we said it at the beginning of the year. Peyton Thorne, you're not going to win with him. Like, he's bad. He's disgusting. Their backup quarterback's bad, disgusting. If Hugh Freeze wasn't making a fool out of himself, I wouldn't be placing any of the blame really on him. I would be like, man, poor Hugh Freeze. Like, you don't have to say these things for people to think it. But the fact that you're saying, oh, pity me, look at how bad my team is, now it's officially your fault. Now you deserve to get fired, even though your team freaking stunk to begin with, okay? And it's so weird. Yeah, Auburn, I mean, even back when they were making national championship games and winning natties, I feel like they always kind of hated their head coach. There was always something. Like Gene Chizik, would have like success and then have a terrible year. It's like, we should get rid of Chizik. It's like no, like they just have never had that steady, Gus Malzahn got close, but nope. Like you would think, because they've had a lot of success. Where is their Saban that just was consistent throughout it all? They didn't have that. They're more of an up and down team they just can't figure it out. So, yeah, I mean, Hugh Freeze making a fool out of yourself, probably going to get fired. We'll see. Maybe not. I don't know. My loser of the week.
Nick,
who's
your loser of the week?
Yeah, my loser of the week is this is it's a niche one. It is people that bet on UCF because the line was weird, because UCF was minus 14.5 playing Colorado. And genuinely, everyone I talked to was like, that's the weirdest line ever. I feel like Colorado is probably better. What's going on? And everyone I know, including myself, took UCF because of that, because how are you going to say they're going to win by 14 and then Colorado smacked them around? And so honestly, the loser of the week is whoever made that line needs to be investigated, because that's a disaster of a line. I mean, how on earth? You explain to me why UCF was favored by 14. I don't get it.
I don't know. I looked at this team and I was like, I have to bet on Shedeur Sanders or KJ Jefferson. I was like, okay, this seems pretty easy.
Or KJ Jefferson to win by more than 2 touchdowns. Like,
yeah. It's like, what are we?
What? So, loser of the week goes to that. There are a bunch of other losers, but I would say the MAC is honestly my other loser of the week, just because now, like, Bowling Green just lost to whoever they played out of conference. Northern Illinois lost again.
NC State.
Yeah, like everyone in the MAC. The MAC's now officially eliminated. Congrats. They're done.
I will agree. I will agree 100%. Nick, who's your dog of the week?
Yeah, easy one. Ryan Williams. I mean, kill everybody. I blacked. And he did.
Bro's not old enough to buy a firearm. He's 17.
He's 17. He just freaking got like a car like 8 months ago or something. I mean, he was putting guys in the blender. He made Michael Vick holding a dog his profile picture after winning, which is just. I mean, this guy
Ice
is.
cold.
He's perfect. He's the perfect guy. I don't want to. I have a feeling that you might counter with the other dog that I was considering, but there are two dogs, and they both happen to be freshmen. So
Yeah. So I was between a handful of people for this dog of the week. There's Ashton Genty, who you could argue is the dog of the week every week that
he's
plays.
the dog of the year already. Yeah.
Yes, dog of the year. He might not win Heisman, but goddamn it, he's the dog of the year. There's Travis Hunter, who insane diving interception and then like 9 catches for 89 yards and a touchdown. But God put people on earth to do some very specific things, right? Like it's just when people are good at what they do, it's a beauty to watch, right? It's like watching Michelangelo paint. And that is what it's like watching Jeremiah Smith play wide receiver.
There you go.
It's truly unbelievable. This kid is 18 years old. He is better than every other person on the field. He is in one of the most crowded wide receiver rooms with Carnell Tate and Emeka Egbuka. And as an 18-year-old true freshman, he is undoubtedly the best. And he said it himself. There is no such thing as 50-50 balls with me. You throw it up, I go and get it. Cold as hell. Jeremiah Smith, the highlight plays he made against Michigan State, dog of the week.
I was between the two. Those are the dogs of the week. I'm glad we got it right because we didn't talk beforehand. But obviously there are some other dogs. We just have to shout out that these guys are true freshmen playing on some of the most stacked teams imaginable. True freshmen, and they're the best players on their team.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yep. Absolutely
insane.
Unbelievable.
Insane.
All right. New segment. We are going to do, Nick, you are going to role play as the corner. We are going to ask, are these teams dead? You have to pronounce them dead or alive. And
I am the Grim
some
Reaper.
of them are going to be 1-loss teams. Some of them are going to be 2-loss teams. But we're going to start in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Is Oklahoma State dead?
I think logic says no, but as the coroner here, yes, I will say they are dead. I just don't think they don't pass the eye test for me. They should have lost to Arkansas. They can't run the ball. They can't really defend the run. Just nothing. Like, even if chaos ensues in the Big 12, which it could, Oklahoma State could somehow find their way into the Big 12 championship game, and we're going to be like, how is this happening? But to me, no. Dead. It just, as far as playoff aspirations go, dead.
Illinois. They lose on the road at Happy Valley. It's a whiteout. Tough game. Are they dead? Are their playoff hopes dead?
I'm going to say no. And it's
okay.
It's weird. It's weird. But they looked good against Penn State, and I'm still very high on Penn State. Now, however, there were missed field goals. Penn State had, like that game was 21-7. But the fact that Penn State was only up 14-7, like the entirety of the game, like it should have just – they kept somehow not scoring to extend that game. And Illinois had that one first great drive and nothing really after. But you're in Penn State. You covered the spread, with ease. It's the whiteout game. Like, playoff-wise, it's tough. I kind of think maybe they are dead, but they never were really alive to begin with playoff-wise. I just think as far as Illinois proving everyone wrong as the year goes on, I think they will continue to do that. I think they could finish the year better than, like maybe 9-10 wins still. Like that. So they're alive in that sense for me.
That is totally fair. Totally fair. Louisville. They go on the road. They lose to a tough Notre Dame team. They were in it the whole way. But the ACC, Miami looks good. Clemson looks good. Is Louisville dead?
It's tricky to say because that Notre Dame game was so strange. Like the first quarter was just so weird. It was just really weird. So, and that was my first time really watching Louisville all year. So the jury is still out on my opinion in general. But I'm going to say they're alive because they have two opportunities to beat two teams that, you know, they'd just be a one-loss team to Notre Dame then in that scenario. So they're definitely alive.
All right, last one. Washington State.
They're dead.
Tough game on the road, blue turf.
They're dead.
But like their schedules.
They had to go undefeated in my opinion.
Yep.
Just like they can't play in the Mountain West Championship. And so now if the whole argument is that we would have won the Mountain West Championship game, well, you got kind of smoked by Boise State, so maybe you wouldn't have, right? That's the issue. But I tip my cap to Washington State. They were much better than I thought they were going to be this year. So
I'll agree 100%. John
Yeah.
Mateer, as a quarterback, we'll have to talk about him like at some point because, damn, he's fun to watch. All right, that ends the Are These Teams Dead segment. Now, last one, hottest seat. This is just I want you to pick one guy, Nick. Who has the hottest seat of any head coach in college football right now?
Boy. I mean, I don't know. I might need you to go as I try to decipher who deserves to be fired.
I'm between two guys here, but
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go with the other one. It's Mac Brown.
Uh-huh.
It's got to be Mac Brown.
Yeah.
Like
he's
their
our-
first three, they were a terrible kick away from Minnesota beating them in that game, right? That was the Thursday night game. It was crazy. Minnesota missed a kick at the end of that game. It was like 34 yards. They would have won, and North Carolina would be 2-3. But in back-to-back weeks, they let James Madison put up 70 on their ass. And then they had a 20-0 lead against Duke and blew that 20-0 lead, lost 21-0 against your rival. You can't have that happen. He seems checked out. In my mind, Mac Brown, hottest of hot seats. He's gone.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's already, quit. Obviously, Mike Norvell and just the coaches down in Florida, Napier and Norvell are still like the tops of the list. But we've talked about that. I will just add in Jeff Lebby because Mississippi
this
State.
early?
Well, you just can't. You can't. It's going to be so bad. I mean, they're. I don't think they're going to come close to winning a single game. And they might lose. They have another out of conference, I think. And if any, I would honestly bet they lose it. Like they are so bad. Watching them is so bad. And it's the SEC, man. Like you just can't get away with that. So
yeah. Well,
he's not.
The good news. Yeah, the good news for Mississippi State. Obviously, they had a tough game against Texas, so they just have to play a pissed off Georgia team after a loss in Athens this weekend or next weekend. So
it's just going to be really bad.
That's tough.
That's kind of the whole thing. Is that like it's just going to be really bad, and I don't know what the athletic director is going to do. But I would say the top of the list is still Norvell and Napier. For me,
that's fair. That is fair. All right, let's get into this weekend's games. Before we do, SeatGeek, football season is here. Get your tickets. I have not been to a game yet, but I absolutely need to. Nick got his ticket for Stanford Clemson because of the bet last year, and I bought that through SeatGeek. So use promo code SmashHitSports, get $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Go see a college football game. But the game previews start Friday night. There are some Thursday night games this week. Nothing too crazy, but I will be watching because I'm a degenerate. Troy, Texas State, and Sam Houston State, UTEP. However, Friday night we get Michigan State, Oregon. Could be a decent game. Oregon is a 24-point favorite, so whatever. But Syracuse at UNLV. This game is going to be a lot of fun, because Kyle McCord has looked borderline electric for the first couple of games of this season. Now, obviously, Syracuse, I had them, edging into the top 25, but then they lost. I like this Syracuse team. I like this UNLV team a lot. And there are going to be a lot of points scored in this game. Like, I would be shocked, or wouldn't be shocked if this game was like a 42-38 kind of game.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go Syracuse. Just because like I was pretty high on Syracuse. I claimed them to be my team, like the TCU team of 2 years ago. Like, and I still think, even though they lost to Stanford, I think Stanford's a little better than people think. UNLV, they had that first interim week, which is always a win. It's always a kind of a fallback down to earth after that. I still think they're really good. They're getting favored by a little too much, in my opinion. I love Syracuse spread. Should be a really close game. It's kind of like whoever kicks that last field goal, maybe. And I'll just take Syracuse.
Fair. I am going to side with UNLV, but I agree. This is going to be a tight game. The spread opened at 5.5. I think it's now 6.5. I would bet Syracuse to cover for sure. So give me UNLV in that one. Saturday, I'm going to be honest. This Saturday slate compared to last Saturday, not as great. There's only one ranked matchup, and that is between Missouri and Texas A&M.
Game day went
Texas
to
A&M is
Cal.
Game day went to Miami at Cal,
which is that's your glaring sign. This is not necessarily a great week of college football.
Yeah, this is the first time game day has ever been to Cal, which shocking.
Congrats to Cal on that. That's probably why they did it. This is actually reminding me, Cody. We didn't talk about the Miami ending at all.
Oh, okay. Let's do that real quick. Miami, Virginia Tech, wild ass game. I want to go on record and say I thought that they got the correct call at the end. I do not think that was a catch because there was nothing that could be shown for that to be a catch. However, the call on the field was a touchdown. And do you have enough irrefutable video evidence? Whatever. I will die on this hill. There need to be times where logic has to prevail a little bit because there's no way any ref on that field could make a decent call. That's why video replay exists. That call would have been so hard to make, whether it was a touchdown or not. Why does the call on the field have to be overturned? Like, why can't we just be like, hey, this is just the right... I understand where it's like, well, do we know enough for it to not be a touchdown? I was like, yeah, but that ball is going everywhere. I can't prove that that's a catch.
That's the thing that differentiates, I would say, a casual football fan from someone more like just invested like you or I, that because the amount of people that I saw saying, well, the call on the field was touchdown, you can't overturn it because you just didn't see enough. And I'm like, pretty much exactly what you're saying. That's one, the hardest decision in referee history. Two, when the video quality is that clear and you can see the ball the entire time, then there is no excuse for the refs to be like, we don't know, so the call stands. We don't know. Like, you can see everything. You have to be able to make a decision. That should be a rule. There is no, it wasn't a pile where it's like, we just can't tell, right? They could tell. The problem is...
And the Miami player touching it while he was out of bounds. Like,
exactly.
An immediate...
The problem is, even though they could see the ball, nobody in their right mind could tell you whether that was a catch or not. I still, to this day, don't know. The refs took 20 seconds to make a call on the field. Would be the other point, is that if the call on the field is going to stand, they half-assed their call just because they were like, it's been 20 seconds. We don't know. I guess touchdown? I guess. It felt like the replacement ref situation where some guy could have said no, incomplete. Some guy could have said touchdown. The argument can't be, well, the call on the field was a touchdown. It just can't be because the refs didn't fucking give a call on the field. Like, it was a bullshit call on the field, and they could see in replay enough to determine something. And I don't know if they made the right decision. I don't know. But they made a decision, and that's important. The call should not have stood.
Yep, I agree. All right, keeping it moving. Saturday slate. Missouri at Texas A&M. I kind of like Texas A&M here, and that
Yeah.
is, I have been all over the Missouri hype train. I have spread Missouri propaganda throughout the land, but at no point all season have they looked like the playoff team that I thought they would be.
Yeah.
And now you have to go into Kyle Field for a noon kickoff. I just don't. I haven't seen it yet, and I don't know if we're going to see it this weekend. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to take Texas A&M here.
I'm also taking Texas A&M. I think this is going to come down to, half the people betting on this game probably don't really know that Missouri has looked not great, and they're going to see that number beside their, the 9 or whatever that they're ranked, and they're going to be like, oh, I can get that team at this value. I'm going to do that. And then half the people are going to be like, they look horrible. Give me the home team. And we'll see who lucks out in that scenario. I don't think I lean confidently either way, but I can't, in good conscience, give this to Missouri. I just can't.
Yep, that is a 100% fair assessment. Next up, SMU at Louisville, and this is a weird game. It's a weird game because SMU has looked so up and down, and they whooped TCU and they whooped Florida State, but then they lost to BYU. But now apparently that loss to BYU isn't actually that bad because BYU is 5-0 and looking pretty solid. So is SMU actually good? Who's to say? I have no idea. SMU is in such a weird spot right now. But here's what I do know. Louisville was a muffed punt and a couple of weird calls away from really being tight with Notre Dame. I understand they scored late to bring it into one possession game, but they were a couple miscues away from being up right there with Notre Dame to the end. I have to take Louisville here. I just don't see Jeff Brom is a hell of a coach. I can't see them making those types of mistakes in back-to-back weeks. I just can't do it. So I'm taking Louisville, and I would probably take them against the spread too. It's a 7-point spread.
I am confidently taking SMU here.
Wow.
Reason being, I now know, and this is people are calling this the Florida State effect, where it once a team beats Florida State, everyone's like, oh, look, it's a good team, even though Florida State clearly sucks. However, it's more so the BYU thing for me, and looking at SMU with my eyeballs, what do we know about Louisville? We know that they played in this weird game against Notre Dame that didn't show me much at all. And then we know that they kind of did what Ole Miss did, where it's just a bunch of, this doesn't show me anything either. I don't care that you beat Austin Peay by 60. I don't care. SMU, from what I've seen, I think is actually probably better. I think I like their quarterback more. I think they, defensively it gets a little dicey. We'll have to see. But I think SMU is probably going to come into this week firing on all cylinders and at the very least the spread. But I actually will probably be taking the money line.
Love that. So Nick is on SMU. Iowa at Ohio State. I don't think there's a ton that needs to be said. I do think 20 and a half points. This will be a closer game than that, I think, but I don't think it'll ever be in doubt. So give me Ohio State.
I agree, but this is in Ohio State. This is in Columbus.
Yes, in Columbus.
That makes a huge difference to me, in my opinion. So, yeah, Ohio State, they could cover. If it was in Iowa, I would honestly really like maybe an Iowa first half spread because I think it could be really close in the first half. But no, can't pick Iowa. It's Ohio State.
Yep. Ole Miss at South Carolina. So South Carolina gave LSU a run for their money. They whooped up on Kentucky. I still don't know how to feel about this South Carolina, but I do know how I feel about this Ole Miss team. That being said, I'm taking Ole Miss. I still think, like you said, there's a lot of talent on this roster still. And I think even though they did not look good last week, I think that they will bounce back. So I'm taking Ole Miss here.
I'm going to take South Carolina. I don't feel good about this. It's the wrong thing to do, I think. But Lenore Sellers, I believe, is back. I believe he's going to play. And what we saw against LSU is that South Carolina was a completely different team when he was playing. I think that everyone's going to be talking get right game, rebound game. No way Ole Miss drops 2 in a row. Like, I feel like this could be just like a surprise spot where it's like, look at that. The 5th ranked team in the country just dropped 2 in a row to unranked SEC opponents. And I still think that I would be like, Ole Miss could make the playoff. I still think so. I still think they're a really good team. Something weird could happen here. I think I just like South Carolina, but
that's fair. That's fair. We didn't do a good job of updating our picks prior to the start of this segment, but I am 39-17. I went 10-2 last week. Nick, you are 38-18 and also went 10-2 last week. We know ball. We know ball.
Well, that's a good last week. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, I went 4-8 the week before, so I needed a bounce back in the worst way.
The week before wasn't great for us. Worst way. So. Okay.
Nope. All right, Rutgers at Nebraska. I am in love with this game. I am so in love with this game because it is Matt Rule, who I like a lot, and it's Greg Schiano, who I like a lot, and this Rutgers team has been very good, and they are undefeated. And Nebraska has been very good, and they have a 1 loss. I really, really like Rutgers here. I really like Rutgers here, and I'm going to take them. Give me Rutgers.
You're going to do it? Wow.
Give me Rutgers. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I felt like it, but at the end of it, like if there's a coach that I trust to like get into a young quarterback's head, it's kind of Greg Schiano. So I'm going to take Rutgers there.
Yeah. I thought about it as well, but I'm going to go Nebraska. There's just, again, it's the home environment for Nebraska. You know, it's underrated because Rutgers and Nebraska have been in the Big Ten for a while, right? But people forget Rutgers to Lincoln, Nebraska, it's not easy to make that trip still. You know, this isn't some Kansas, Nebraska game. So I do think that this does favor Nebraska, this spot here, and I'm going to take them. But I think, could be a field goal game as well.
Love it. We have West Virginia at Oklahoma State. Nick, do you trust this Oklahoma State team?
I don't care about this game. This is, I mean, I don't trust either of these teams. I mean, they've just, it could be really fun, maybe, but I have no idea. Cody, who are you taking?
I'm taking West Virginia. Okay. I think this is the final, not only nail in the coffin in terms of like Oklahoma State's season, but I think it's a loss. And then we have like, is the Mike Gundy era over? Like what happened to Ollie Gordon, the whole 9 yards. So I'm taking West Virginia.
Yeah. I'll take Oklahoma State. Just to differ.
You're a dick.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to do it.
I love that though. This is a week where a lot of different games here. So could be very impactful to the standings.
Exactly.
Tennessee at Arkansas. I think Tennessee is one of the best teams in the country. I think they will continue to show that. So give me Tennessee.
Yeah, I really thought about Arkansas here, Cody. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to do it. Just beware, Tennessee fans. Just beware. But yeah, I'll take Tennessee.
14 points. A lot of points. Michigan at Washington, Nick. I don't know if you're looking at the show sheet or not. Are you looking at the show sheet?
I can be. What? Yes.
I don't need you to. What do you think the line is for this game?
Okay, well, I just freaking looked because you told me to.
Fuck. God damn it, Nick. You ruined it. Anyway,
that is on
the line for this game, Washington is favored. Why is Washington favored in this game? Why?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Revenge spot, maybe. Maybe this is like the motivation is so high for Jed Fish to be like, even though none of the remaining guys were even freaking there anymore that played in that game, but maybe he can be like, hey, look, like this team beat you, this team stripped it away from you, you could have won it all. Now you get to host them in your house. I don't know. I don't know, but that's a Vegas nose line. So you bet your sweet bippy I'm going to be taking it. Okay, even though that hasn't been working too much this year, I'm going to be freaking taking it.
So are you on Washington or are you on
Yeah,
Michigan?
I'm taking Washington. Yeah.
God damn it, Nick.
What?
I thought I was gonna come off as some sort of fucking college football savant and be like, well, the Washington, like everything's down against them, and Michigan, blah 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 blah. I kind of like Washington in this game, and it's not as much my faith in Washington as it is in my disgust in Michigan football. The fact that first off, the refs screwed Minnesota. I'm not sure if you saw that onside kick. Minnesota should have gotten the ball. They screwed them. But I truly think that this Michigan team sucks. I think that they are bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to pick Washington to prove a point. I also think Washington is bad. But I'm going to pick Washington this week. So
again.
That game, it's insane that we have a national title rematch that nobody's going to care about. Like,
yeah. This is the last football game played like before the start of the season, and now it's just a complete and utter joke of a game. It doesn't make any sense.
Crazy. We have 5-0 Duke at Georgia Tech.
Put that in the show sheet.
I think what was Duke's win total coming into the year?
Oh, right.
I want your thoughts on this game because I'm going to look that number up. But what a crazy ass year for Duke.
Duke has probably hit their total already. My thoughts, I did not know we were going to be talking about this game. That's awesome that you put this in the show sheet. I don't think this is a real Duke squad that is scary, and they go into Georgia Tech. I feel pretty good about Georgia Tech here. I mean, what do you think? Because I don't know. I don't know if Duke has done anything to like prove their worth quite yet, other than just kind of narrowly getting to this crazy 5-0 point.
Yeah, they have absolutely like not limped, but they it's not a powerful 5-0. Like it's not a convincing 5-0. They beat Northwestern in overtime. They beat Elon. They beat UConn, your UConn Huskies, by 5. They beat Middle Tennessee State, and then they beat North Carolina in a comeback win by 1 point. Eventually, you got to put a good dog down, and I think that is what this Duke team is. There's no shot. Surely there's no shot that they end up 6-0.
That's kind of my thought as well. So I'll take Georgia Tech, but I feel like this is maybe where they, really shock the world and put themselves on like the map, and then they start falling off. So it's weird, but
fair. Could be. Their win total was 5.5 headed into the start of the year, so they could hit their win total this weekend. Next game up, Miami at Cal, college game day. Is a single person on earth going to bet against Miami in this game? I'm not.
Maybe on the spread. I can't take Cal money line. I can't.
Yeah.
I also do think there's some truth to a rebound game after a close win, right? Like Miami's in one of those weird spots where they beat a team they should have beat by more. So they have that sensation of like they're still alive somehow. Like that luck of like, wow, we were given a second life. That effect psychologically normally equates to domination the following week. But Cal has an aura to them this year as well. And I am concerned in Miami's true abilities. I have yet to be fully bought in. Besides that second half against USF, I was like, okay. But that first half, I don't know. It was bad. So I'm not fully bought in. But I will be taking Miami in our pick'em.
I saw somebody on Twitter call this game woke versus Coke, and that's awesome. That is funnier than shit.
Yeah,
put it on a t-shirt.
Communists versus convicts. I saw, which is also funny.
That's also good.
You've seen Cal Twitter, as you know, all
Yeah,
of that, right? It's just
they're incredible.
they're just like socialists and like claiming to be communists, and it's really funny.
Yep,
Critical race theory,
it's
all
great.
that. It is.
Yep.
It's good.
Last game, an 11 o'clock kickoff, Texas Tech at Arizona. I think this game is going to be maybe just from a pure like holy shit chaos football standpoint, the most fun game on the slate. 62.5 is the total. Neither of these teams play an ounce of defense. Nick, this legitimately could be a game where we're talking about like Baron Morton and Noah Fafita having like 5 or 6 touchdowns apiece, and McMillan goes off for 4 touchdowns, and like we are just having ourselves a ball. So I don't know who to pick, honestly. I'm just gonna pick the opposite of whoever you pick. Just know that I'm betting the over, and I'm gonna cheer for points.
I'm taking Arizona. I think you're definitely right that this is going to be a very high-scoring game. I will say Arizona defensively, they put their freaking foot down against Utah, but I don't think that matters because I think they might just – this might be a game where it's like one play, next play, touchdown, and then the other team gets the ball, and it's like first play, touchdown. So then it just becomes like the defense is just out there the entire game, it feels like. For both teams somehow. And the points are just going to keep going up in that sense. Texas Tech definitely doesn't play defense. I don't trust them at all.
No.
So that's why I'm taking Arizona. Yeah.
That is totally fair. It also helps with your previous agenda. So
it does. I'm back. I didn't think I would be here at all to end the year.
Yeah. Speaking of things that we didn't think, Clemson and Florida State play this weekend.
Yeah, and they're not a top 12 game.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Isn't that nuts? Yeah, to start the year, you told me, like, oh, Clemson, Florida State, that won't be a game that needs to be talked about. It's nuts. At the very least, if both teams were 3-3, I'd be like, well, we should talk about it.
Yeah.
No.
But no. Absolutely inconsequential.
Florida State is that bad. They're that bad. It feels like Clemson playing Montana State. Doesn't matter.
Oh.
Although it is a rival. Yeah.
That's disrespectful, and I love it. I love the disrespect.
Yeah. It is a rivalry.
All right, well. All right. Yeah, I'm sure you'll have a beer or two for it. All right. That being said, that is the whole slate. Thank you guys for listening up to this point. If you are a fan of the show, make sure to hit that subscribe button and be a friend. Tell a friend. That is the best way to help this podcast grow. We appreciate y'all, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.